Hey, it's Sparky, Fifer 1250 AM, The Fan here in beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin, along with our guy, Dwight Albrecht. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Dewey300, Spare Time Pro Shop in beautiful New Berlin, Wisconsin. Phil Brylow, he is on the road. That is why he is not in studio this week. Follow him on Twitter at Brew City Bowling, and he'll tell you why he's on the road in just a little bit. But first, we got to get a Hall of Famer on the line. The newly inducted Lennie Boresch Jr. joins us now after going into the PBA Hall of Fame this weekend. How does it feel, Lennie Boresch Jr., to be called a PBA Hall of Famer?
Thank you so much. Feels pretty surreal. It's just really hard to believe. We had a great night last night. And, just really, really happy.
I got a question for you. The same question I asked Leroy Butler with him waiting forever to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm going to ask you the same thing. At what point did you think you had a shot to be in said Hall of Fame?
Well, it was a goal of mine to win another major. Sure, that would be the easiest route because at my age, trying to get to 8 titles, it might have been a little rougher. But I figured one more major would have made me eligible. But I definitely didn't expect to get in this quick. I figured it would be, down the road sometime, possibly. Maybe I had to win another title or two, Yeah, but when he came down and surprised me, I was just overwhelmed.
Okay, hold on. I gotta follow up on this. So in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's completely all overly publicized, the whole deal. They have cameras following up with a former player, teammate, whatever. They knock on the door like they did for Leroy, and then they record the whole thing or whatever. So how was it for you guys for the PBA? How does that whole process work? Is it a call? Do you know when the call is supposed to come in if you're in? How does that work?
No, actually, Tom Clark came to my league at both Friday mornings at Castle Lanes.
In Racine, yep.
He came down, in Racine, and he just hit him and Brylow down there, and he had told me, I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" He says, we're here to promote the new tournament up Milwaukee, and Phil's letting us do a couple promos here. I'm like, "Oh, cool." He goes, "I might give you a shout out. I'm going to get before your league and announce it." And all of a sudden he's going into it. All of a sudden he so by the way, Lennie won the U.S. Open last. He was made him Hall of Fame eligible, and we had a vote last night, and he will be inducted in the Hall of Fame. So it caught me totally by surprise.
Wow. Yeah, in front of everybody in the league that knows you, your friends and all that. And
yeah, everybody was there, yeah.
That's awesome. And Brylow, you were in on this, Phil?
Yeah, Tom had called me up a couple days before that. He goes, "Hey, we got a surprise, Lennie. We want to know. I don't want to just do a phone call because Tom lives in the Milwaukee area.
Right.
And he's so close to Lennie. And it's just like, let's do this." I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm there." I'm like, he didn't have to tell me twice. I had a regional I was covering in Freeport, Illinois right after that. And Lennie comes walking in, he sees me and he sees Tom. He's like, what are you, like the look of what the hell are you doing here?
Right.
And, Tom swerved the whole thing. And then I went down, shot with the camera. And all of a sudden I knew when Tom was going to do it. I just started slowly turning, hoping that Lennie wouldn't see me, knowing that all of a sudden everything's on him. And yeah, they replayed the clip last night where Tom told Lennie during the Hall of Fame banquet, they played the clip. And it was really cool for everybody to see. And you could just, you saw people on the tables around Lennie just sitting there nodding their heads like,
and that's cool for the aspect of now, Lennie, you'll always have that moment that you can look back on, going forward, or other family members. You can always play that back for him going forward. I think that's a pretty cool deal versus if Tom shows up, he does. It's still very cool, but if nobody's recording and nobody knows about it, you never have that moment to look back on.
Right. It was funny about it is that as Brylow knows, we had a regional later that day.
Yeah.
And he was live streaming it. And I almost didn't show up to bowl that day because I was just going to go to the practice session. I didn't want to overdo it. So I said, I need to bowl. He got missed a couple weeks. And so that would have been bad if I would have missed.
Oh, Tom Clark would have been heartbroken. You would have got there and you're not there. Oh, my God. Go ahead, Dwight.
Right.
So, Lennie, for the local and state Hall of Fames in Wisconsin, I know that you have to have requirements and then a sponsor. What's the requirements to get into the PBA Hall of Fame? And did you have a sponsor?
No, it's actually all criteria. It's Dwight. What is it? It's for the regular tour via that route. It's 10 titles or 5 titles of 2 majors, and the senior weigh-in is 8 titles or 5 titles and 2 majors. So once you become that, you're automatically eligible, and then you probably, I guess it goes for a vote.
That's good stuff. Lennie Boresch Jr., PBA Hall of Famer. Check out his pro shop, of course, at Castle Lanes down in Racine. Prices are going up now because now it's the Hall of Fame pro shop. I'm assuming, Lennie, right? We're changing the name. Is the sign being installed as we speak?
Yeah, I still letting this all sink in. It's just kind of, I've been a nervous wreck for 3 months about this. And in the middle of my speech, I got kind of confused, but I got through it. But that was a great night.
So what was the most important things for you going into that speech? I mean, obviously, I think probably the biggest thing is just making sure to thank, family and the people closest to you would be my guess.
Yeah, definitely my wife. If it wasn't for her, my kids' support, my God, I wouldn't have been in there. I was, you know what I mean? You gotta have a good support team back home. And I definitely have that. She's always been there for me. And then, of course, you got to thank your friends and family to help you out, and all your coaches. And which I feel bad. I forgot to mention my coach last night. Mike Diaz helped me out so much. But I will send him a note. But, yeah, I forgot a few people. But definitely Storm, my sponsor, my big sponsor, and all my friends and family.
Hey, Lennie, last night, Tom Clark announced that there's going to be a new veterans committee for the Hall of Fame that's going to look at some of the guys that don't meet the criteria, like you've met the criteria with the 5 wins and 2 majors. What's a couple of the names that come to mind that could be in the Hall of Fame? And it doesn't necessarily have to be either tour level or PBA 50 tour level. I'm thinking of a guy like Dale Traber or Jeff Riggles that have just done and won so many titles on the regional tour that some of these regional guys could get recognized on the PBA Hall of Fame as well. Are there a couple of names that stick out to you as Veterans Committee? They should really look at these guys and get them in the Hall?
Yeah, I think Walter had a really good formula for it. He wants to do like a point system. I remember him talking about, a point for a regional, so much for bigger tournaments. Maybe you need like 100 points to get in or something. Just kind of put something like that together. I think it'd be good. But obviously, Ryan Straight. Actually, Jacob did that article one time. He did a blog that was pretty interesting. He mentioned a bunch of people because a lot of guys I think he mentioned Gil Sliker go for the title 12 times or 10 and won once. And Ryan Schaefer bowled so many times and finished second. And, how do you? Winning is important, but you're up there every week. Ryan Schaefer definitely the first guy that comes in my mind. Steve Giles, Bobby Learn, God, few of them, few guys like that got multiple titles on both circuits.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see those guys get in for sure.
Yeah, and then Pete McCordick talked last night about how there's a Southwestern Regional PBA Hall of Fame. I think we should start a Midwest Regional PBA Hall of Fame, maybe house it at Castle Lanes. Since you're there, you've got to be one of the first inductees. There's so many guys in the Midwest that have contributed to the sport. Maybe we get Phil to throw a few bucks back in the center, Dan Nat, the new owner there as well. Maybe we start a little wing at Castle Lanes with the Midwest Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it'd be nice. You said, you mentioned Rickles, and he's got 1 million titles, Travers. God, they should have a Midwest Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there we go. That's my new project for the next 6 months.
There you go.
There you go. Work on it, Phil. Yeah, we'll just expand Castle Lanes and put in a whole nother wing. No problem. Real easy. It's not your money. Lennie, Dwight's got one more for you, and then I got a couple left. Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, sad news this week. We read the passing of Jim Doty from Royal Pin Woodland Bowl. Do you have any memories, Lennie, of bowling at Woodland Bowl or meeting Jim Doty?
I didn't know him really well. I know what a great ambassador of the game he was, and what a great manager, proprietor. But yeah, actually the only TV show I ever made was at Woodland Bowl. So yeah, I got some really good memories there.
Talking with Lennie.
He's a wonderful person.
Yep, talking with Lennie Boresch Jr., PBA Hall of Famer, goes into the PBA Hall of Fame, makes the speech, the whole deal over the weekend. Thanks for him for joining us on his way back All right, Lenny. So explain this to me from your perspective, as far as kind of the state of bowling, I guess, from a pro shop owner down in Racine. We always hear Dwight's spin from New Berlin from the Spare Time Pro Shop. How do you view the sport right now, as far as the youth coming up, the adult leagues that you see down there in Castle Lanes? How would you look at it from the Racine perspective?
Well, I think I had my best year ever last year, and going strong this year. And Dwight probably knows this too. You get a lot of recreational bowlers, teenagers coming in since COVID. You know, a lot of them two-finger bowlers, but it's getting them started. A lot of that, though. A lot of recreational bowler. So I guess it's good. The lanes are full. Hopefully, we get them in the leagues. But I think bowling's in a really good place right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. You talk about the recreational bowling and getting them in. And there for a long time, I don't know if you guys are still doing it or not, but you guys were doing like $5 Friday nights or whatever the case was. And then that was scaled back a little bit. And I don't know what you guys are doing now, but I see it at Classic in Oak Creek with high school kids that are going in there and randomly just bowling on a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon and doing their thing. Do you see an increase in those type of teenage bowlers versus, say, 5-10 years ago, more so than it was before?
Yeah, I think big time. I said it's just bowling's been good, and it's funny, they're coming in, they're buying high-end balls, some of them, and they really know how to bowl. They just don't want to commit the leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting, but yeah, they're seeing, kind of like us golfers. They hear about the good clubs and they want the good equipment. And sometimes I got to say, hey, you don't need that kind of ball right now, but it's funny. And they're so internet savvy now. They read so much on the internet.
Right.
They come in and they're throwing a house ball and they want to know their PAP and
Good
they
God.
read so much, but yeah, it's crazy.
So what about the two-handed bowlers? What are your thoughts on that from a pro shop owner standpoint?
Well, it makes it easy. You really got to drill 2 holes.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's I think it's just the future. At first I was like, no, I welcome it. It's just part of the game. It's just technology. And if I had a young kid, it would be hard to tell him not to do it. For sure. And I think it's just, Dwight knows it's made the drilling and the balls a little more unique. They all track so different.
Yep.
And it's crazy.
Hey,
yeah,
Lenny,
I think it's a social media. And I keep going back to these young kids come in and they start talking about PBA bowling and watching their favorites on TV. So we're getting more of that. And I'm really excited to see the younger crowd following the PBA.
Oh, it's crazy. And they're big YouTubers now, too. And a lot of people watch it. They learn how to bowl on YouTube. So
Brad and Kyle.
All young. Yep. Yeah, Brad and Kyle.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Hey, Lenny, this year on the PBA50 Tour, it's going to be a little different schedule for you. Usually right now you'd start gearing up for that East Coast swing that usually started, beginning to mid-April. Now this year, nothing really starting until beginning of June. And you get a short West Coast swing, and then it's basically like the old school tour. You're going to be going week to week to week from the first week in July all the way through the end of August. What's the approach to the 50 Tour this year? Are you going to hit every stop? Are you going to be able to do it? Does it make it a little easier to balance the pro shop and the tour now with that condensed schedule?
Actually, I think it actually made it a little easier, but the way it didn't, I don't know. Going in later in the end of August, I was kind of glad they cut back events. That was a lot last year, but they usually don't bowl them all, but I was at it with more well, so I continued last year. But so yeah, I'm kind of excited about that World Series thing, and Florida in August isn't as appealing as April, but yeah, we're gonna give it a shot as long as they're kind of nursing a sore hip, so I haven't bowled a lot. So hopefully we've been rehabbing that. So maybe this not starting until June is probably a good thing.
What's the draw like when you guys go rolling into town and do these PBA 50 events as far as the fans that are coming up?
It's good. I mean, it depends. Every town is different. I mean, you go to Florida, they're packed. You go to some places, there ain't that many. But overall, it's usually pretty good crowd there compared to probably some other tournaments, but yeah, you just never know, right? Right, Phil? You don't know.
Yep. All right. Very good. He is Lennie Boresch Jr. Check him out. If you're in the Wisconsin area, runs a pro shop down at Castle Lanes. PBA Hall of Famer, Lennie Boresch Jr. Lennie, thanks so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
All right, Sparky, Dwight, and Phil, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Lennie.
Safe drive home, Lennie.
There he is, Lennie Boresch Jr. joining us, PBA Hall of Famer. I've known that dude for a long time. We all have known him for a long time. I didn't think he'd ever be a PBA Hall of Famer. I really didn't. I mean, growing up, like you, Bowling with the Champs, all that other stuff, right? And you think, okay, like Phil said, okay, great regional bowler, Midwest bowler, that whole deal. But if you would have told me 10, 15 years ago he'd be a PBA Hall of Famer, I would have been like, well, how?
Yeah.
But the PBA 50 really opened up that avenue more than anything.
It did. And here's one for Phil, because he loves the history of it. Name another Wisconsin bowler that's in the PBA Hall of Fame.
Dick Richter, that's it.
Right.
Dick Richter?
Yep. From
Richter,
River Falls, I believe.
Yeah, he won a bunch of titles on tours in the 60s and 70s, and then he retired from the tour. He started the Dick Richter bowling camps that were really successful for 3 decades with everybody that he coached, and then he had other professionals that he taught his system that they went out and did the Dick Richter camps. They've been around for a long, long time.
Richter was the opponent when Don Johnson had the famous 299.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Richter was his opponent.
Really?
278 and loses on TV.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'd be drinking for a week. Are you kidding me? Get out of here, man. That's insane. The other thing that I think I brought up here that I wonder. So in a lot of Hall of Fames for the state of Wisconsin, so baseball, high school baseball Hall of Fame, football, whatever. For pro sports, they have it as well. Does the PBA have a contributor category as far as, what you've brought to the sport and so forth, and what you've meant to the sport over the course of time, Phil? And if so, do they have quite a few of those type of people in the Hall of Fame or no?
Yeah, meritorious service they have a division for. So last night, 2 of the inductees were for that. One of them being Pete McCormick. Remember, Pete shot that big 300 game in 1987 on TV. Yeah. Finished arms in the air at the foul line. And Pete was the PBA Southwest regional manager for 25 years till he retired recently. The other inductee meritorious service last night was Fred Borden. Fred, a great coach for many, many years, worked with a lot of PBA players. Based in Akron, where the PBA started with Eddie Elias years ago. So there are quite a few members in the meritorious service part of the PBA for those that have contributed not as only as PBA members or in the service for the PBA, but like Fred Borden, just as a great coach to so many professional players.
Are there commissioners in the PBA Hall of Fame?
Yes.
So they put commissioners in as well then.
I know Joe Antonora is in there. Obviously, Eddie Elias as the founder of the PBA. There's a couple of the other ones that were in the middle of the 70s and 80s that are slipping my mind right now, but definitely there's commissioners and other support personnel in there as well.
Where is the PBA Hall of Fame?
It's virtual right now.
There
were plans to put up something at South Point Bowling Plaza. I don't think that's progressed at all.
Should be at Bowling Heaven.
They have some yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, Portland.
It should be at Bowling Heaven. Yeah. Nobody supports. I mean, we could say Milwaukee, I guess, right? I mean, we're all here, fine, I guess.
We're
that's
the capital,
right? Milwaukee makes sense. The USBC used to be based here and all of that. I'm fine with that if you want to put it in Milwaukee. But to me, I mean, Bowling Heaven seems to make a lot of sense. They put all that money into the renovations that they did out there. They're highly invested in bowling, clearly. That owner out there is highly invested in it. I'm sure if you went to that dude and said, hey, look, man, we want you and us to kind of partner together in building this thing and adding it on to what you have already or whatever. Now you're selling PBA League being out there. You're selling the PBA Hall of Fame experience, all of that stuff. Like, to me, it makes a lot of sense. Now, again, I don't have any money to make this happen, so you got to go find the money, guys. I understand you're listening like, oh, Spark, yeah, big talker. You don't got to spend the money. Yeah. True, I don't, but it's just something that should happen. Like, if you're going to be a true, legit sport, pro sport, which obviously the PBA has been for a long time, not to have some type of brick and mortar something for people to kind of tour through and see highlights of different eras and that type of stuff, I think it's a big miss.
Well, they do have the International Bowling Hall of Fame down in Arlington, Texas at the International Bowling Campus where USBC is headquartered. but there's sections about the PBA. There's no true PBA Hall of Fame down there. So yeah, and
again, this is a weird sport where you have all these different splits and everything else. The NFL is the NFL. Period. Right. That's it. There's not the NFL, and then there's this branch of it, and this branch of it. You got all these different damn branches. So it's different in that aspect. You've got World Bowling, you've got the USBC, you've got the PBA. I get it, but I just think there should be something along those lines, and we can have the conversation of where it should be and who should fund it and all of that stuff. But like Belmonte, like all the stuff that you could have in there, as hot as Belmonte is, could figure out a way to have some type of interactive experience with Belmonte. I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could go with it.
I keep thinking, well, Belmonte and in Australia, I mean, do they have anything for him out there? Because I mean, God, he's got to be the face of Australia, Phil, isn't he?
There was somebody in Australia that facetiously wrote in a letter to the editor for one of the local papers down there. It said they should construct a 75-foot tall statue of Belmo straddling a highway with his two-handed bowling style. So he does get noticed down there. And Jason jokingly said, "Nah, they should make it 100 feet, not 75."
Right.
Type of thing. But he gets noticed. He gets noticed a lot at home, and Jason always shares when he does get noticed at home with national TV appearances and that type of thing.
It's interesting.
Social media.
We're going to talk about the NASCAR show coming up here in a little bit. But Matt Kenseth was a NASCAR driver for many years, right? From the Cambridge, Wisconsin area, which is by Madison, for those of you listening all over the country or the world, I guess it could be. He had his own Hall of Fame. It was Matt Kenseth Hall of Fame. And I think it's closed now, but while he was racing, he had it. And he had fire suits from winning championships, all his different trophies, had a couple of cars, like all this stuff. I went up there. I took the tour. I did the whole thing. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a great idea. And to your point about Belmonte, that would make sense for Belmonte to have one of those, in his hometown in Australia, wherever that is, or whatever the case may be. But as far as the PBA Hall of Fame goes, I mean, that's definitely should be a thing. And then you have to figure out, okay, what type of interactive feature can we have that would make the younger kids, right, in their 20s or whatever else, want to come in and attempt to do the interactive feature or whatever the case may be. Yeah. That's interesting. I guess I always just assumed they had one and I just had never been to it. But now knowing that they don't have one, that's something that, at some point. I know Tom Clark has bigger fish to fry than worrying about a damn Hall of Fame. But for bowling heaven, to me, that makes sense. We should get that guy on again. We had him on
Charlie
a few years ago.
Yeah, I'll talk to Charlie. I got to talk to Charlie about some other stuff in the next week or so. I'll bring this up again.
Yeah, I'd like to have him on again. That would be fun. Okay, real quick here. PBA and NASCAR, a TV show recap. I'm an idiot. I'll raise my hand. I'm an idiot. I'm a complete moron. Okay. I turned that thing on thinking I was going to see some PBA bowlers. And what I got was a bunch of NASCAR dudes trying to bowl and a country singer. So that's what I ended up with. And again, the country singer is by far the best bowler of everybody there, right? Jimmy Allen. And congratulations to him. I mean, that dude's on American Idol. The dude's doing the PBA. He's all over NASCAR. Yeah. He's got his name and face everywhere. You want to talk about marketing yourself and knowing how to get in front of people? That dude has got it figured out, does Jimmy Allen. And he's legit, like he's real, and I don't know. I like him. Anyway,
he's actually sponsoring a tournament series in Delaware where he grew up at a bowling center out there. So they have like every 2 months they have tournaments that he's helping sponsor.
Yep.
And they're packed. The first one packed the house last month. I mean, it was just absolutely wall to wall with bowlers and spectators. It was pretty cool to see.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. So I saw a bunch of NASCAR drivers. Now I'll say this: they weren't really a bunch of good NASCAR drivers. I mean, Ricky Stenhouse just won the Daytona 500. You could have told me Ricky Stenhouse would have won the Daytona 500 in his career. I would have bet you as much money as you ever wanted to bet a person that there was no chance that dude was ever winning the Daytona 500. He's a hard trier. Him and Danica tried really hard, but it didn't work out. And normally him winning race, the same thing, tries real hard, doesn't win. But he won the Daytona 500. So that was nice. He had the Daytona 500 winner as part of it. Eric Almirola, he was involved in the whole thing here at the Milwaukee Mile back when the Busch/Nationwide race was here. That was a big topic on Sparky's final inspection back in the day because of a sponsor deal and the whole thing locally, a local sponsor deal here. So there's something to go along with him. But you didn't have necessarily the big names I want to know what the numbers look like. That I'm intrigued. I want to know how many people tuned in to watch that thing, that were fans of NASCAR or whatever else and wanted to see these guys bowled away.
Right. Who would you, I keep thinking when I'm listening to you, who would you like to have seen on there? I would like to have seen Kyle Busch on there.
I wouldn't. Well, Kyle Busch would have been great. Yes. Right. But see, the problem you have is that depending on when they tape, when was this thing recorded? It wasn't live,
Friday.
was it?
They recorded Friday afternoon.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, you want to go get the stars, right? So you want Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, who actually just raced this weekend, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, Jimmy Johnson, all those guys. But I'm guessing that you had to pay for every one of these dudes in order to come bowl in this thing. Maybe not. Maybe Tom got them all to volunteer to come be a part of this for their brand and their TV show. Maybe it didn't cost them anything. But yeah, for me, I want the guys, that have been around and established themselves a little bit more than the guys that ended up, necessarily being out there. Tony Stewart, right? That's another guy.
Now, a lot of these guys, Stewart from his house,
right? A lot of these guys aren't racing necessarily. A lot of these guys are retired and in the TV booth now and so forth. But they're still the more recognizable names of NASCAR still today, I think, than maybe the guys that they had. Now, Allen obviously is going to draw his audience, regardless, Phil, one way or the other. But I thought there would be a tie-in like there is with the Chris Paul tournament for so many years to be some PBA bowlers. But obviously that wasn't the case because, as you said, they were bowling in other parts of the country.
Yeah, Jesper Svensson and Kyle Troop had to fly from the tournament in Jackson, Michigan. So they flew out late Wednesday or early Thursday to get out there for the Friday show. Daria and Verity, obviously coming from Florida.
Yep.
And they both had just gotten back in the country recently. Daria is from Poland and Verity from England. So, and they're getting ready for the women's tour season. So yeah, a lot of logistics having to go into jamming that taping into the schedule. And then, here's Jesper and Kyle yesterday, right back out here in Fairlawn, helping out at the youth coaching clinic that they were doing at AMF Riviera Lane. So yeah, lots of travel and commitment for everybody involved in that Go Bowling NASCAR Invitational. And I was kind of disappointed that Tony Stewart wasn't part of it. I mean, he's one of Sean Rash's sponsors. If you look on Sean Rash's jersey, he's got the smoke logo and everything. And I know there's at least one other bowler at Tony sponsors. He's got a couple lanes in his house, in Indiana, and he's getting to be a bigger supporter of the sport. But I know Tony's busy with starting his NHRA team with drag racing, and probably was just tough to get Tony Stewart there for the taping. Yeah.
No, but again, don't mistake me when I say this, but this was a great idea by whoever came up with it. So if Tom Clark came up with this idea, good job. I doubt NASCAR came up with it. So I'm guessing this came from the PBA side to intertwine the two sports. I think it's a brilliant idea, regardless of who you sent out there from NASCAR, because you got the cross promotion on the NASCAR telecast, I would assume, plus whatever else commercials you had running with inside the NASCAR races to promote the PBA event. So you did tap into an audience that may or may not have been watching you. I mean, there might have been some old folks down south that haven't watched since Holman and Roth. I hadn't even turned it on since Holman and Roth. I forgot all about that. That used to be, on ABC or whatever. So maybe you get some of those dudes to turn it on. But again, that's where I get a little bit conflicted here with as many of the NASCAR drivers that they had versus the actual PBA bowlers. There's not much you can do about it necessarily. I think as I'm thinking about this now, would it have made more sense to take that NASCAR event and put that in front of the next tournament that they're actually going to have? Because it was recorded anyhow. So it wouldn't have mattered when you ran it. You could have ran this thing in June. It wouldn't have mattered. But if you would have recorded that and then stuck that in the front as the lead in to an actual, live tournament or whatever is going on.
Well, the problem with it, if they would have did it the immediate next week, is you've got 4 TV shows and a 17-player stepladder coming up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from the Tournament of Champions.
Right. I'm not saying you really would have had to push it out. You could have attached it somewhere to an actual tournament where you get them in watching, and then you go into the live show next with the actual bowlers.
Yeah, and it's tough this year because everything that's on Fox early in the season, it's all majors.
Yeah.
It's a fine balance between, do you want to put this on, and you're going to get the cream of the crop coming to the top of the majors. I mean, we saw EJ Tackett and Simonson and Troop already in that first show at the U.S. Open. If you're going to get those names in that event, we had Troop, sure, we had Svensson. Not as many people know Jesper as they should. But if you would have gotten an EJ Tackett and Anthony Simonson and Troop and Svensson, a couple other ones, I think that'd be the better tie-in. Yeah, Verity and Daria are great to be there. They're phenomenal athletes, but when are you going to see them again? You know, we talked about that a couple. You know, PWBA Tour's got 3 events this year on CBS Sports Network. Other than that, unless you're a Bull TV subscriber, you're not going to see them. So I would have liked to see all PBA bowlers there. Nothing against Daria, nothing against Verity. I'm going to see the women's tour when they're in Grand Rapids later on this year. I'm going to go as just a spectator, but it should have been all PBA.
I will say this. NASCAR has a much bigger female audience than I think people realize. I mean, there are a lot of females that follow NASCAR now for multiple reasons, right? I mean, NASCAR is a soap opera. Mm-hmm. It is. It's a soap opera all year. It's not, think about it this way. So if you're the National Football League, right, and the Packers and the Bears, let's say, are the rivalry, and let's say something goes down and it's a legal hit, whatever else, they don't play next Sunday. You have to wait till whenever they play again on the schedule.
Right.
But if Kyle Busch wrecks Ricky Stenhouse or something and goes setting them, into the wall, they get to be on the track right away the next week, and Kyle Busch or Ricky Stenhouse can get retribution right away on Kyle Busch. It just like Formula One or IndyCar. Who knew Dwight was an IndyCar fan? I learned that. Or IndyCar, because it's the drama of every week something can happen. And you can go, oh, that was from 2 weeks ago. That's payback for that. And guys getting on the cars, yelling and screaming and wanting to fight and all that. And then the strategy of when to pit and when not to pit. I think maybe that's part of it. I think the other part of it is, and now, again, I don't go out nearly as much as I used to back in the day. Got a family and the whole deal. But back in the day, you'd go to the bars and watch the NASCAR races, and it was all guys and girls. It wasn't just a bar filled with dudes. There were a lot of women in there watching NASCAR races back in the day. And again, it could be for whatever the reason. My husband watches it, so I watch, and I like that guy. He's really cute. No, that's going to be my guy. Then they go out and they buy the jacket or they buy the T-shirt. And then you see all these women out of the different races, NASCAR races as well, partying and doing their thing. So there is a female audience. Now, does that translate to the women's tour in the PBA? I don't know. But there is a significant, I would bet, and I don't know this, and maybe Tom Clark has the demographics on it, but I would bet the percentage of fans that watch a NASCAR race, there's a higher percentage of female viewers for that than there is for the PBA, I bet.
What's your take on that then? Is it just the drivers? They can relate more with the men drivers?
No, it's the soap opera aspect of it. There's drama, right? I mean, women like drama. Yeah. Women like 90 Day Fiancé and all of that stuff. I know my girl does. She's got, all of those reality type shows. She's watching all that stuff because she loves the drama aspect of it. So when you get into a sport where you can have that immediate, plus there's a tinge of violence involved, right? Mm-hmm. That's why the NFL is so successful, because of the violence that's involved, the big hits and whatever else. And you can turn it into flag football like the NFL is trying to do currently. But that is what grew the NFL in popularity. And that's kind of what hurts baseball, is you don't have any of that necessarily, that physicality. But in NASCAR, you do. Hockey isn't nearly as popular as it probably should be necessarily, but there's that aspect. But even fighting in hockey has died down significantly over the course of time as they've tried to get rid of fighting in hockey, especially in the playoffs. You rarely ever see it in the playoffs. Yes, Phil Brylow.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend I was covering a regional in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and the crowd there in person, you mentioned demographics. It was probably 80 to 85% male.
Yep.
15% female. And, lots of guys hanging out, watching watching the guys bowl and talking and socializing, in the bleachers or standing behind the bleachers. And yeah, but it was maybe 10 or 15% women there that were spectating. Whether that is different on TV when they're on FS1, that's a Tom Clark, as you said, that's something Tom Clark has to do. But even in Jackson, Michigan, the week before, during the tournament, it was about 80-20. During the TV finals, it was closer to 50-50 during the live stream finals. So lots of families that showed up for the finals there. It was packed like it was a regular TV show.
Nice.
So Dave Small, who's marketed the PBA so great in the centers he owns in Michigan and Indiana. Full house there. There's going to be a full house in Kokomo, I'm sure. And he's hosting the first PBA 50 World Series of Bowling in Jackson, Michigan, coming up later in the PBA 50 year. So they're going to have 3 different patterns out for qualifying, and then they're going to have their own PBA 50 World Championship. So I know that's one of the tournaments Lennie mentioned he's really looking forward to.
Okay, I want to go back to something else. So Lennie Boresch was just on, the PBA Hall of Famer. And he owns his pro shop at Castle Langton Racing, which, by the way, that I love that bowling facility. They've done such a great job down there. And then Dwight has his in New Braunfels Spare Time Pro Shop. So if we're having this much influx of teenagers and high school kids or whatever else coming into open bowl, like, and there's no way to force it. We talked about this years ago when we did this show. There's no way to enforce it, but man, it would help the sport so much if there's a PBA event on to have the damn thing on the TV. Like, it doesn't have to be on every TV, but just a couple of the TVs. My kid is 16. His buddy plays baseball and starts on varsity. As he was starting on varsity last year as a sophomore. Okay, this last season as a sophomore. So he's a pretty athletic kid. Dude, he's working at the bowling alley.
Right.
And him and his buddies come in and they bowl and horse around, and he's trying to get better. And he's throwing it with two hands, taught himself, trying to figure. I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? Yeah. Oh, I'm getting better, man. I've been here like 2 or 3 days in a row, blah, 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 blah. I'm figuring this out. And there's a bit of a challenge. Now imagine if I could have Kyle Troop or somebody up on the PBA show, one way or the other, to be like, oh, I see what he's doing. All right, I can figure this out. Oh my God, look at the amount of revs he's getting. Wonder if I could, like, that type of stuff. No, I don't want to bowl league. I don't want to be tied down one night every week to go bowl league. I want to hang out with my buddies in high school. Fine, get it. But still, if I can have that on Sunday afternoons when the PBA is on and I got some high school kids open bowling and now they look up and they see what's going on, I think that's cool. And when we get to the summer, what's the alternative? Baseball? Fine. Have a couple screens on baseball. Cubs, Brewers, golf, whatever you want. But you could at least allocate 2 or 3 TVs and 20 lanes to have the PBA Tour.
I think it's getting better. I'm seeing it getting better. I'm seeing bowling being put on the screens, at least at New Berlin. During at least like when city tournament was going, they had
that's good.
Yeah, the U.S. Open on while the bowlers were bowling. But getting back to the youth, I see it proprietor as a lost ability to grab that recreational bowler while they're there, while they're enjoying the sport, and go down with a little slip saying, hey, you know, we have like a trios league starting this summer. I mean, you got 3 guys on your team pair right now bowling. Why don't you guys maybe look into a summer league? You know, you have that lost opportunity to just give them a little flyer and say, I mean, 13 weeks over the summer. And then you got those guys maybe for even the fall and winter to grow the leagues. I know I get it with the whole, I want to go when I want to go type of deal, but it's a long winter.
I would love to know, does anybody, you can tweet at me at Sparky Radio, Dwight at Dewey 300, Phil at Bruce City Bowling. Are there leagues around the country? Because here locally in Wisconsin, we've got volleyball, sand volleyball courts attached to every bowling alley you can find. So that's how every proprietor has decided they're going to make money in the summer is we're going to have volleyball leagues outside.
We do.
I wonder if there would be any interest in doing a volleyball bowling league where 1 week it's volleyball, the next week you're bowling, the next week it's volleyball, the next week you're bowling. So you're essentially playing volleyball every other week, and then you're bowling every other week from, you know, say May to September or whatever the case may be. Like, I remember growing up, and I was on Vegas leagues in the summer. Every summer I'd be on a Vegas league, and, you know, and whoever won the league got a trip to Vegas and stay at a resort or whatever the case may be. And that was beautiful. Loved it, right? Big fan. But it can get warmer outside. People don't want to be stuck inside and so forth. So in order to make them both work, maybe there would be some interest in kind of doing both, Phil.
I've seen bowling centers and volleyball courts do, if you're rained out, come in and bowl for free. That type of thing. Yeah, I mean, so they tie it in that way. I haven't seen anything where it's been, you know, bowl 1 week, play volleyball the next week, that kind of thing. It's a good idea. Hey, Dwight, let everybody at New Berlin know. Maybe you should try that for a summer league this year.
Who knows if it would work? I don't know.
I don't know.
But it's just an idea, right? Because I guarantee you this. There are guys and girls that are playing volleyball in the summer that are on couples leagues or leagues just in general in the wintertime. And then in the summer, they go and play volleyball. And if you went to them and said, look, you can still play volleyball, but let's go bowl 1 week and then volleyball the next week and work it back and forth. And if you had 2 of those leagues where they crisscrossed, where, you know, on Tuesday nights, this league is bowling and this league's outside for volleyball. The next Tuesday night, they switch. I don't know. Versus saying, okay, Tuesdays are filled, you know, for volleyball, wherever the case may be. Now you can get, I think, double the amount of people in order to do both leagues at one time. And now you're utilizing outside and inside at the same time. Now my bar is cooking on the inside from the bowlers that are bowling. Plus, I still got my volleyball action going.
Summers are short in Wisconsin.
It's like 2 weeks.
Right.
If you're talking warm weather, like 80s, 90s. Yeah.
Right. And that's my only thought. If it would have been a longer summer, maybe that could something work. But I think the ballers go into it with the option, the analogy that, hey, it is a short summer. We better take advantage of every week that we have. And a lot of these volleyball players even play in the rain unless we have lightning, of course, and it's canceled. Correct. But a great idea. It would be interesting to see if it did take off. But we actually have a whole team of bowlers that play volleyball.
Sure.
And I know all of them, for all of them that are in a league at New Berlin for volleyball.
I'm waiting for horseshoes to take off again. I mean, mullets are back in fashion with these high school kids.
To come out.
I mean, horseshoes are going to be coming back next. You just have to imagine that's going to be the next thing that's going to be popular. My kid, 16-year-old, do you know what he's doing? This started within the last month. Him and his buddies all decided in class, because they get bored in class or they get their work done or whatever else, that they were all going to teach themselves how to play chess on their phones. So they all have the chess app on their phone, and then they all get to going against one another, whatever else. I was like, really? Chess? Do you know how to play chess? I know how to play chess, but I didn't think it was something cool that y'all would do. And these are all athletes that are all doing this stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, it takes more brains than checkers. I'll give you credit on that.
Well, there was actually a quote on social media from a PBA fan saying this week after EJ won his third title that EJ and Simonson are playing chess and everyone else is playing checkers.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. But that's okay. Now we just need a rivalry to start up between somebody. And still waiting for that to happen. They need a Sean Rash Jr. is what they need. They need somebody like Rash Jr. that can get going. Pete Weber Jr. would be amazing. I mean, now we're talking miracles. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd settle for Sean Rash Jr. at this point.
I mean,
that'll do it for another edition of the Spare Time Bowling Show. Always a fun one. Download wherever you download your favorite podcast. Obviously, you found us now. Tell your friends. And I am working. I don't know if it'll be this week. I started on this on Friday. On YouTube, there's an Odyssey, AUDACY sports page. And I'm working to get this podcast as well as my Kurt and Long Packers podcast, my Green and Bowling podcast up onto this YouTube page. And on this Odyssey Sports YouTube page, it's all of our podcasts for 2,400 sports from all across the country. All of our NFL podcasts. We're the only bowling podcast. So that should make things a lot easier for everybody to find us. So I'm working on that. So hopefully by the time we get back next week, I can tell you that this one specifically is up on YouTube, and the ones going forward will be up on YouTube. So follow Phil at Bruce City Bowling. Follow Dwight at Dewey300. You can follow me at Sparky Radio. Phil, what's on the agenda this week for you? Are you out and about?
Heading back home from Ohio today, and nothing for another couple of weeks. I'll be in Carpentersville, Illinois, in a couple of weekends for a PBA 50 event. I'm sure I'm going to see Lennie at, and he's going to try to take down another regional title.
Sweet. All right. Very good. Sounds like fun. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Toodles.